You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime. You are now tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that's on all the time, anytime. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for all content. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nathan Snell. Bring your sports game with Big Nate Sports Talk.
Well, first of all, listen, it's interesting about all these young guys today. They never call on us and say, hey, thanks for the kind word and telling me how great a player I am. But when they play like crap and we call them out, we don't know what we're talking about. Listen, I'm easy to find.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope your day was good, work, school. I hope it was just a great Wednesday for you as we are just moving right along into the week. November is here. Thanksgiving is around the corner, and then Christmas, and then 2023 will be upon us. I cannot believe that. The year has just gone by fast. And also, too, we get our hour of sleep back. Now that is wonders. I'm much need of that. This is episode 25 of the podcast. In this video, we are recapping the NFL trade deadline. Trade deadline, and this arguably had the makings of probably the best trade deadline so far. There were some surprises. We'll get into that. But before we get into it, there's a few things I'd like to say up front. I appreciate all the new subs that have subscribed to the channel. Like I said, we're on the road to 200 subs. We're just trying to take it one day, one video at a time, and we're just trying to just grow and just try to have faith of a mustard seed. And I want to see this channel blossom into something where this could be an online platform where multiple people can just talk about sports or things that are on their mind. So that's my goal for this channel. The other episodes, if you're not already, check those out. You know already, with the Baltimore Ravens recap against Tampa Bay and the Washington Commanders versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Maryland football recap, I'll have that video out tomorrow, around about tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, recapping the last two games. That's pretty much it. Maryland basketball, I know they had a scrimmage today. The ladies did. We're getting to that. Because regular season is not until, I think we're like at least another almost about a week or so. And then we're right there. So, but let's get into it. The NFL trade deadline. I was surprised as I get my water. There were some trades that I liked. There's some trades I didn't like. There's some trades I had questions on. Excuse me. I kind of wanted to know the incentives on some of these trades. I felt like some of these trades have changed the trajectory of what the season will look like. As the season progresses, we are having some teams that are struggling. I think there's teams that are like 500 on the mark, and there's only like a couple of teams that are like above 500. This has probably been one of the most interesting seasons to see so far. But when I look at this trade deadline, one thing that stands out to me is that I think everyone made the necessary trades. And we're going to start with one with the Detroit Lions, even though I kind of find this weird. The Detroit Lions traded TJ Hawkinson to their divisional rival, the Minnesota Vikings.
What was that? What the hell was that? I'm sorry the H words and the D words aren't appropriate over the airwaves, but it's going to be today. I don't know how much more of this I can take. How in God's name?
Okay. There is a rule that I've learned with sports. And one of those rules is you do not trade within your division, particularly your rivals. From a perspective from Detroit, okay, let's, for some context, TJ Hawkinson was the 8th overall pick 3 years ago. I think he's he's an up and coming, he's a rising tight end. He's signed through next year. I think it's a 5th option that's going to pay him a little about $9.5 million. When you look at Detroit, I can see where Detroit made the trades, because they're going to get a 2023 second rounder and a 2024 third rounder. Along, Minnesota gets a 2023 4th round and a round pick. I think Minnesota made this trade because of a couple things. Irv Smith Jr., in my personal opinion, I believe is out for the season. Even though they said it's a high ankle sprain, they said it's 8 to 10 weeks. When I'm looking at the season right now, his trajectory, I think that's pretty much saying he's not going to be. If he's going to come back, it'll probably be after Christmas or around New Year's. And I just don't think he'll be ready this season if they make the playoffs. Most likely, he'll be probably active for if the Minnesota Vikings make the playoffs. Now TJ is now the number 1 tight end. Even when Irv Smith Jr. comes back, he's still going to be the number 1 wide receiver. It's interesting looking at Minnesota as an offense, particularly looking at their tight ends, comparing the tight ends average wise to around the league. They have the least amount of yards of points this year. I averaged this out to a B plus because of a couple things. They still needed some tight end help anyway. I thought Minnesota made a mistake of letting Tyler Conklin walk. I really thought it could have kept him, but the Vikings didn't give up much. To give just a couple draft picks, you really kind of got to steal. And now Kirk Cousins has another weapon. Now that kind of opens up the field. You've got Justin Jefferson on one side, Thielen. You got Dalvin Cook. The field opens, and I think that can make Minnesota help further its run as they progress throughout the division. Because I'm looking at the Minnesota Vikings. I believe the Minnesota Vikings will win the NFC North. I'm going to go in that direction. Detroit. This is confusing to me because just about 2 weeks ago, this was the number 1 ranked scoring offense. And trading arguably maybe your number 2 weapon behind Amon St. Brown, and then TJ, then you got DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and those guys. I would like to know what was the reason behind the trade. because this is somebody you could have built or you could build around. Like that's something that bothers me with guys that don't see the bigger picture. Here he is the 8th overall pick. He's in his 3rd year. He could be a potential building block, and we're worried about salary cap. I'm looking at him, Armon St. Brown, when healthy, Josh Reynolds, DeAndre Swift when healthy, Jamal Williams. That's an offense that you can build around Jared Goff. They can get content. They could be contenders. But now that's thrown out the window. That hurts. Now, yes, he's had injuries. I understand that, but like the picks that you got in return for TJ, we don't know what those picks are going to be. Even if the Lions, because I've seen some mock drafts, and there will be a video down the road of some mock drafts of the Detroit Lions taking a quarterback. I would really like to see where these picks are going to help the Lions. That's just me, but I'd say it's about to be. The next trade that happened at the trade deadline, Bradley Chubb was traded to the Miami Dolphins. This was actually a surprise in Miami. One thing I noticed, the Miami Dolphins, when I looked at this trade, they don't have their first-round pick for next year's draft because they forfeited it due to the tampering of trying to get Tom Brady to play for the Dolphins. And also in that trade, they traded Chase Edmonds to the Denver Broncos. So the Dolphins get their first-round pick. The Broncos get Miami's first-round pick and a 4th-round pick and Chase Edmonds. And in return, the Dolphins are getting a 2025 5th-round pick and Bradley Chubb. Because that first-round pick, I believe, if I'm saying this correctly, was a part of the Trey Lance deal. And because they don't have that first-round pick, because the one their original pick they had was forfeit, as I stated, because of the Tom Brady tampering. Bradley Chubb is arguably one of the best linebackers in the game. Denver, I think the biggest thing was I think they're kind of going in a different direction in terms of money. And now when you look at Denver, now you've got, I think it's Baron Browning, Nick Bonito. I looked at the depth chart. That's going to be some interesting shoes to fill. However, I'm a little confused on the getting Chase Edmonds part because you're already dealing with a backfield of Melvin Gordon, who is still your number one running back, and then you have Latavius Murray. Javonte Williams is out for the season, but Chase Edmonds is under contract through next year. So I'm a little confused on where this trade, how this would pan out for him, because he kind of was left. He pretty much got lost in the sauce in terms of getting touches on the ball, particularly having a good year from Arizona the year before. And if you push me to it, I'd say I didn't write the grade, but I'd say the grade it's about a B minus, because I'll look at it from Denver's perspective, because this season has not gone the way many would expect it to be. And I think it's system. I think injuries have played a part in that. And I don't know if this is a direction of rebuilding or resetting. Now, Bradley Chubb would most likely command money. Now, when you look at Denver, like, probably they're looking like, well, let's just rebuild. Miami, I think they made the right move. I think they're all in, and they're saying we're trying to win a championship. Even though I think I wouldn't say you paid a hefty price. I think you paid a price where it was fair reasonable. And he's actually due for an extension. So they are in the works of getting that out for him. So congratulations to Mr. Bradley Chubb as the Miami Dolphins. At this point, I'm comfortable saying that it will be the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills coming out of the AFC East for the playoffs.
Guaranteed.
Let's move on to this one. This was I'm sorry, shout out to Sydney Swinton. Chase Claypool was traded to the Chicago Bears. Okay, in all seriousness, okay. Now, I think this is a good trade. One, because Justin Fields finally gets some help. Because what they have out there is let me make sure I say the right thing. Let me make sure I keep it professional. It's not exceeding expectations. Let me just say it like that. Now the Green Bay Packers also tried to make a move in on Chase Claypool, and that didn't work. Now, I think with the rise of George Pickens, and we all know Deontay Johnson is the one wide receiver, I thought Chase Claypool would have been the number one wide receiver, particularly when Juju Smith left. But I think there was some things, in my personal opinion, on the field and behind the scenes, I think, where he kind of just fell down below the depth chart. I mean, whether it was untimely penalties and not taking accountability for some of his actions on the field, I think it's a good trade. I think it's a refresh for him. I think it also it gives Justin Fields another receiver, particularly on the other side of Darnell Mooney. I like Equinus St. Brown. I like Pettis. They are decent receivers. Cole Kmet is still young and still developing, but watching the Bears, that offense is it's bad. I mean, I think it really. I'm gonna step on my soapbox really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's really, really unfair to criticize Justin Fields when you've absolutely put nothing around the guy. Like we're saying like for example, watching them play the Washington Commanders. Great example. The biggest criticism was he holds onto the ball too long. Well, I'm looking because look at his playmakers. I mean, they couldn't get open. And also, too, when your offensive line's not giving you the time to make sure in the pocket, and when your number one wide receiver, isn't living up expectations, Darnell Mooney, and then Pettis. I mean, your Pettis was your leading receiver in that game. I think if he had playmakers, makes a big difference because they haven't gotten they haven't got production from other than Mooney from any other wide receiver. And that says a lot. I mean, yeah, Equinus St. Brown and Brian Pringle, but they're not producing. Like, I give Chicago flowers because, hey, okay, we know what we got to do. Definitely Chase Claypool, excuse me. He definitely brings a lot. He brings in the playmaking style for Justin Fields. Now, does that change things? I think Darnell Mooney is really a number 2, and I think Claypool can be the number 1 wide receiver. Let's see. Pittsburgh. I don't think it was a bad trade, but they pretty much are. In my opinion, I feel like Claypool probably peaked in that system, and I think George Pickens stood out more. I mean, if you, I look at I look at George Pickens as another version of Chase Claypool. I mean, they're basically they were two of the same wide receivers in my opinion. So if you ask me, this is a B minus C plus, like B minus C plus grade, because let's see what it looks like, but I they just need to get him some more help. They need to. But I'm not going to get on that soapbox. That's a whole nother subject for another video. Let's move on to the surprises. The San Francisco 49ers traded Jeff Williams to the Miami Dolphins.
What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing?
Okay. This is a surprise for me because we all know why. Because now Christian McCaffrey is now deemed the number one running back. If you remember, Elijah Mitchell, hope he is doing well in his recovery. Jeff Wilson now became your number one running back for now. San Francisco has gone all in, and they're trying to get to the Super Bowl. I think this is championship or bust, in my opinion. Miami definitely needed some more depth in the backfield once they traded Chase Edmonds to Denver. And when you now look at Christian McCaffrey's number one running back, you're now left out of the equation. And I think Jeff Wilson will be a great fit for Miami because who was the running game coordinator for San Francisco for 3 years? Mike McDonald. And I think that would be wonders. I think he'll thrive in that system. Mike McDaniel, excuse me. That he will thrive in that system. Like you're already going to join a backfield that has Raheem Morstead, and those two most likely will work in a pair. And I think that's going to be a good trade for the Dolphins. I'm really curious to see just how long it'll take. It'll probably take them like a couple weeks because especially Jeff Wilson was going to be a free agent after this year anyway. So he's pretty much an expandable trade piece. Is how I look at it. So, and it didn't really cost them, the San Francisco 49ers, really much anything. So I'm not mad at this trade at all. So shout out to the San Francisco 49ers. The Dolphins are also trading a 5th round pick next year to the San Francisco 49ers. So we will move on to the most very, very surprising trade. The Atlanta Falcons traded Calvin Ridley to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm not going to even sit here and act like I didn't know this was coming. Or act like I know this was coming because I did it.
I'm sorry about that. I know what you're thinking. He's suspended. Yes, he's suspended for doing something he should not have done. That's a whole other subject for another video. He was suspended indefinitely in March for betting on NFL games. He can apply for reinstatement. I believe it's February. Now, what they gave up, Atlanta will receive a 5th round pick. If he's not reinstated by February, it's a 6th round pick. If he makes the team in Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley, they will get a 4th round pick. And then also too, if he hits it's a lot of weird stuff. If he gets playing time, it turns into a 3rd round pick. And if they get a long-term deal, Jacksonville, they'll turn into a 2nd round pick. So I'm looking at this trade because I believe he was deemed the number one wide receiver once Julio left. And last year, after 5 games, he stepped away because of mental health issues. And then now this offseason, batting NFL games. And I think he actually betted on the Falcons beating Jacksonville if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's going to be an interesting outcome for this trade because, like, I look at Jacksonville. Christian Kirk has definitely disappointed as a free agent. He's not even though he's the number one wide receiver. I just don't see it. They need another playmaker out there. Trevor Lawrence needs some weapons, and that's what I kind of see. I think he's another weapon that Doug Peterson will definitely love on that field because I mean Calvin Ridley, Ravens had a chance to get him, but that's one other subject for another video. When I'm looking at it from Atlanta side. There are a lot of conditions with this, and I'm looking at Atlanta's future. Drake London, Brian Edwards, Demir Bird. They're right now at 500, and it's looking promising. I think I'm going to say Atlanta will win 9 games. I think they're right there. I think they're on the cusp. There's still some things I'd like to see Atlanta fix, but I think their future looks promising. And Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley will be 28 whenever he's reinstated. And you look at the stats, he has number 1 wide receiver written all over him. You know, it was actually ironic during COVID season, he was 6th in receiving yards. That was higher than DK Metcalf, Tyreek Hill, Terry McLaurin, and AJ Brown. Bring your hat on that stat. And I think with a change of scenery, I think this would be good for Calvin Ridley. It's just I really do hope he's doing well because to step away 5 games after 5 games of the season before, and then you're getting in trouble for that. I just hope he is doing well, and I can't wait to see him back on the football field because he definitely has promise. Let's painfully move on. Well, I don't even know why I say painfully because this was Ron Rivera's guy. William Jackson III was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked, honestly, because he wanted to be traded. I feel like personally, look, former AFC North rival. I think he's a good corner. I just think giving him in the 3 years, what I saw, he just didn't live up to expectations. And they're getting a 6th round pick, and it's going to be swapped for a 2025 7th round pick. Like, he just wanted a fresh start, and I agree. I mean, he made it vehemently clear that he was not zone coverage when he was playing with us. He considers himself man to man. I respect that. Everyone has a different playing style and different playing tendencies. He recorded, I believe, was 55 tackles and 10 passes deflected and 2 interceptions. Now, the biggest question I had for this trade is who's paying for what? Well, using my lovely source, SpotTrack, because I don't know who's paying the remainder of his salary. Next year, he's scheduled to make $9.2 million. And I think he will. I think he's ranked 14th of $13.5 million in terms of it's like I don't remember how it's a weird. I think it has to do with the cap, if I'm saying that correctly. And I think for Pittsburgh, I think what they're getting is veteran who can buff up that secondary, because watching their secondary get burnt like toast against the Philadelphia Eagles was as a as a AFC North rival, I have respect for the Steelers. But to watch them get burnt toast against Philadelphia, allowed AJ Brown to have 3 touchdowns.
I mean, this is some bad stuff. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I just don't know. This is ridiculous. Oh, Lord.
Now, William Jackson III does not fix their issues in the secondary, but I think it's a good pickup because they really, really need it. Now, would you like to know a fun fact? William Jackson III was drafted with the 25th overall pick in the 2016 draft. However, the Bengals picked him up at 20. No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase it. They wanted to pick him with the 25th pick. However, Cincinnati took him with the 24th pick, which left them to take Artie Burns. And it's ironic, it comes full circle. The guy that you were interested in is now you traded for him. That's a fun fact. Because I mean, Burns was a decent corner, but they really wanted William Jackson, and Cincinnati took him. So they got the guy that they really have always wanted. So hang your hat on that stat. And the final trade of the deadline, Nyheim Hines was traded to the Buffalo Bills. I think this trade is good in a couple ways. Buffalo gets a running back out the backfield that could catch the ball. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary just disappointed. Just didn't really pan out in terms of pass catching. I think he brings a different a skill set that those two guys don't have. Because they definitely needed a guy out the backfield that could catch the ball. Why I say that? Because watching them play the Baltimore Ravens, and there were a lot of times where Josh Allen would throw it to Zach Moss, throw it to a Breida or a Singletary, and left their hands back at the hotel. Hines is a perfect choice for that offense, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're just going to use him more on passing downs, and you rotate Singletary or Moss out of there. That's just my opinion. I'm curious to see how that'll work offensively. If you're Indianapolis, I mean, what is there to really say? From a standpoint, you're getting a draft pick. You're getting you're getting Zach Moss and a 6th round pick of next year's draft. So you got something. Zach Moss is a good running back, but in 3 seasons, you can see I could see why he was traded, and you didn't give up much. You didn't give up much. You only give up a draft pick. If you're Buffalo, as I stated, you're getting a running back that is not only versatile, but it can also catch the ball. Again, I think his skill set will help Devin Singletary, and it gives Josh Allen another option in the passing game, because they tried, and we knew who they thought they were, and tried to get Kareem Hunt and Christian McCaffrey, and that didn't work, because I guarantee you they had to pay a handsome price. Because me personally, if you're going Christian McCaffrey, you're going to give up Stephon Diggs or something, and I'm sorry, you're going to give up somebody. I'm not going to give you Christian McCaffrey up like that. But you had it's weird because I'm a little confused with this because you have James Cook, who I would think was drafted to has the same kind of skill set as Nadine as Hines. So I'm a little confused on that. So that pretty much tells me either he's not ready or this is just Buffalo going, they're all on board. This is just a rental and we're trying to win it all. So I would like to know more about that from that perspective. But other than that, I mean, that was the trade deadline. I thought it was a very, very interesting trade deadline. Because I was really hoping some Kareem Hunt would have been traded. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I was hoping that the Ravens make a trade for a receiver. We got Roquan Smith. Yay. Other than that, I think everyone was pretty much content. One thing that I will bring, I want to say, shout out to Andrew Flaubert. I see where he's coming from, and I see it too for next year's draft. A lot of teams are looking at quarterbacks, but I want to caution because my thing is there are some. I'm really quick. There were some mock drafts where I saw the number one overall pick being a quarterback. Quarterbacks to me should not be franchise changers. They should. But let me. I want to explain that. They can be a piece to the puzzle, but when I look at the Detroit Lions, right? I think it's I'm not a Jared Goff apologist. I want to make that clear. But I think it's unfair. I think it's not fair to hold what happened in the Super Bowl against Jared Goff. Because last time I checked, it's a team game. Last time I checked, the defensively they had Jared Goff doesn't play defense. It just was a lot of multitude of issues. I get the strike one, Sean Spencer. If you draft a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young to the Detroit Lions and he does not pan out, what is the excuse? When you could look at Detroit defensively. Defensively, they're not good. They could use that pick to start building their defense. If you just put some weapons around your quarterback, look at Trevor Lawrence. Great example. Okay, yes. I think he has a makings of being a star in the league, but look at what he has to work with offensively. What's going to be the excuse if he doesn't pan out? Well, quarterbacks cannot make crappy teams look good. It's going to take your front office to say, oh, we need to start. If we put weapons around him, that makes a difference. Like Jimmy Garoppolo is a great example. Even though I think is it unfair to pull the plug on him after just being in the Super Bowl? Yes, I do. Now, they made it vehemently clear that Trey Lance next year is the guy. If Trey Lance doesn't pan out, what's the excuse? Because you've invested in Trey Lance. Because you have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, and if you want to extend McCaffrey, you've got weapons. And he doesn't pan out. What's the excuse? Like, I just don't think drafting a quarterback fixes issues that already are happening with a franchise. Detroit Lions have defensive issues. Build your defense. Build around what you have. It's not like Jared Goff he's having a decent season. I'm using him as an example. Jimmy Garoppolo is having a decent season. If you put another playmaker or two behind Trevor Lawrence, positive results. I'm just saying. Same thing, I can say the same thing about Lamar Jackson. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Look at Josh Allen. Like, look at Joe Burrow. You have pieces around your quarterback, and that matters. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I get his rationale thinking. I see what he sees, but I don't think quarterbacks are fixing some. I just don't. Now, if you're the Houston Texans, that's different because I like Davis Mills, and the Texans, they have it's bigger than Mr. David Mills. Now, if you're Cleveland and you have Deshaun Watson, that's a whole other story. But let's move on to our last subject of the night.
Incoming message.
Thoughts are running through my mind. Someone took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
I'm sorry. I don't even know why. I'm sorry. That the Cleveland Browns, man. It's a long. I'm gonna say that for another video. Final message. Yeah, man. As I said earlier in the other two videos, if you hadn't already checked those out, I touched on what happened to Takeoff from Migos, and what I was saying is that sometimes we as individuals have to take a look in the mirror and say to ourselves, what do I have to do to be a better person? And also to something that Deion Sanders said that was very, very profound. And I actually want to share that clip. I actually want you guys to take a listen to it because it's I should have played it earlier, but I think it kind of reinforces what I was saying. And it's something I reinforced what he was saying, but I just want you guys to hear it. Mostly everyone should have heard it by now, but for those that didn't hear it, I'm going to play it for you. So shout out to Deion Sanders, Jackson State University. But I definitely want to share this with you because I think this is important. I think this is for a good message for all of us, for us to take in, because he dropped some serious wisdom, and I think it's important to hear. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. I appreciate you, Sean Spencer, for being in the comments. Please like, comment, subscribe. Road to 200 subs, road to 1,000 subs. I do appreciate the love, support. Please like, comment, subscribe. It's your host, Nathan Snell, signing off. Have a good evening. Have a good Thursday. I will catch you on the flip side.
I'm just sick and tired of the consistency of people that are influential to you leaving us consistently. That's our rappers. Takeoff was murdered in a dice game in Houston, where we're going. So that eliminates all y'all leaving that hotel, because it ain't happening until I give you further notice. So whatever her name is, whoever she is, parents, everybody, they're going to come to the hotel to visit you because y'all ain't leaving. Sooner or later, we got to start changing our addresses, guys. That's an analogy to saying, I know we this, but we ain't that. We got to leave that behind that we once did. And that's what you guys are. Now you guys are Jackson State royalty. You ain't no, man. You're not whoever you were a year ago. You're not even who you're going to be a year from now, which is a blessing. But you can't continuously do the things you've always done and expect to get the results. It's going to have to be a change. All of us have gone through drastic changes. Have we, coaches? Have we, coaches? All of us are still evolving into what God has called us to be, and that's change. You cannot kick it with the same dudes you kicked it with. You cannot kick it with the multitude of women that you kick it with. You cannot associate in the same realms that you associate with. You're going to have to change if you expect change. You can't do it. It's going to come to a time they can talk about you They can mock you, they can ridicule you, they can cuss you out, they can clown you, whatever they want. But you're gonna have to separate sooner or later. You're gonna have to disconnect. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to. So get that in your spirit. I'm sad because it just seems like it's always us. But we want to say we matter. We want to say we keep it in 100, but it's always us. Now we lose another soldier to some bull junk that when we look back at it, the gentleman gonna say, dang, now his whole life changes. Because now he's incarcerated or murdered in a consequence of what transpired. Because you know how the game is played. And I don't want y'all playing that foolish game because y'all are valuable to your families, friends, loved ones, and you're valuable to us. All right, let's think about that. Let's pray for the families. Ain't no time. Ain't got no time to take foolishness. Let's go get it.
But I get sick of these guys complaining. These young guys, they never call us and say, when a coach is wrong, I'm going to call him out. But when players are wrong, I'm going to call them out. Thanks for the kind words. But listen, I'm going to criticize guys that they deserve it. And listen, they can kiss my ass if they don't like it.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode and you want to see more content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bring your sports game on Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Thank you. And you help me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you.